Hi everyone, welcome to this class which is slightly different. It's the yin practice today. So I'm practicing just about 5 or 6 postures that we're going to hold for a lot longer. And the idea is to really allow the fascia, the deep muscles in the body to relax. And we can only do this by holding for a lot longer. So it's quite a meditative practice. You'll notice a lot more coming up mentally. And it's fun. It's a lot slower paced. So today I'm focusing on the stomach and spleen organ pairs. So this is a sequence from Sarah Powers. And she really looks at pairing the practice with the meridians and the energy lines flowing in the body, which we call in yoga, we call the nadis. So yeah, the Chinese medicine approach really complements the yoga system perfectly. So we're going to be working with those meridians running through the body. And so using the mental focus of the prana, we can unblock a little bit some of the energy pathways that might have become a little stagnant. So get comfortable. I have put mats in all directions because I like to have plenty of padding underneath me. I also have a bolster for one of the positions, and you can use a rolled up blanket inside a pillowcase if you don't have a bolster, or a couple of pillows just on top of each other, or cushions. And I've also got the ball for one position for support. You could use a chair, and you also don't need anything at all. I'm just using it because I find it really nice. But let's get started and see how we go. So we're going to start in a seated position. Just softly resting the eyes and resting their hands on the lap. Think about softening the tongue and the jaw, the eyebrows, the neck, the shoulders, and all the way down the back. Follow that downward movement until you get to the earth, and then just feeling grounded through the earth. A strong base to rise up out of. And for a few moments, let's just watch the breath and tap into the Ujjayi breath at the back of the throat. Become aware of all the sensations in the body, and particularly around the stomach and the spleen. Drawing the breath down into the tummy to help it to soften and relax. And then we're just going to blink the eyes open and come onto the knees. And we're going to come to a wide angled child's pose. So the feet are together and the knees come really wide, about as wide as the mat, sitting back on the heels. And we're going to come forwards, and I'm going to come forward onto the more padded part of the mat because it can be quite sore on the tops of the feet. We can take the left arm underneath and onto the floor, and your bum will come up with this position. So come onto the side of the head. You might keep the bum up, or you might sit back if that feels comfortable. Reach the right arm out in front of you. And this is our first position to really settle into. So at first, just letting the breath settle into the position. Noticing where your stagnant energy is. Noticing where your meridians are, because your attention will be drawn there. And then direct the flow of prana through the breath to those spaces. We'll hold this position for about another 2 minutes. Just the last 30 seconds now. Allow the body to soften. And then very slowly, let's come back up onto the hands. And bring the knees back together. Or come up onto all fours. And in between each position, we'll just ease out. So finding into your own best position for easing out. And mine is to hang the hips forwards. Yours might be different. And then we'll go to the other side, so taking the same position. And we'll sweep the right hand underneath this time. So you come onto the right hand side of the head. The left arm reaching away from you. Noticing all of the mental attitudes coming up. Noticing any pushing away with the mind. So natural when we're in discomfort. And always monitor this discomfort so that it doesn't go too far. If this is really challenging, then always come out of the position whenever you need to. Otherwise, see if you can ride the breath through the position. Bearing witness to your discomfort. We'll just be 1 more minute here, and you can count the breaths, a full 8 breaths. And then just coming back up, slowly easing out of your position. And again, a few movements. The next position is a reclined hero's pose, and this is the one that I'm going to use the bolster for. You can practice it on the floor if you're quite flexible in the lower back and in the knee. So this is quite challenging on the knee. So do be aware of that. So I'm going to start with the left foot back. It's easier actually to start with the feet forwards. Let's do that. And then tuck the left foot back. So I've got the bolster long out behind me, slightly away from me. The foot is tucked right in and I'm on the top of my foot, just tucked in towards my hip here. And I'm going to ease back to lie on the bolster. So I like my knee and my shin to stay on the floor. Check that you don't need supporting in any other way. This is a practice of using support, so blankets, cushions, blocks, wherever you need them, to make this as comfortable as possible so that you can settle into the position. Pay attention to where else in the body holds on to the tension. So that it becomes a practice of always letting go. This last minute, enjoying the final section of this relaxation. Seeing if you could invite a gentle smile onto the face. To come up and out of this position, we'll come up to seated by propping your elbows underneath you and pushing up with the hands. And then we'll come straight forwards into a long lunge position. So taking the right foot forwards, and then we're going to take the hands inside the front foot so that you're in a long dragon lunge. Let the hip be sunk forwards so that you're not upright in a lunge, but you're getting a lovely stretch on that front there. Lifting the head. We'll also be holding this one. Find a point to fix your drishti on, your gaze. And if the mental attention needs an anchor, it can be the breath, just following it in and out of the body. Continue to use an ujjayi breath to deliver the prana exactly where it's needed in the body. We're working quite hard, even though we're not moving. It's challenging, so you need to use the breath to sustain this. Last half a minute. And gently just ease back. We're going straight into a pigeon fold here. So we take the right foot across the mat and the right knee onto the floor. Extend the left leg behind you. So the shin is horizontally in front of you-ish. And then come forwards, lifting the chest, squaring the hips so that you're not completely off to one side. And we'll come down onto the elbows and possibly folding in onto your forearms. And a beautiful place here to take the drishti to the inner third eye space. So you might find here that you need some support underneath the right hip, and you could always drag that pillow or block underneath the right buttock. Last 30 seconds here. And then come up onto the elbows, retracing your steps back up onto the hands. And you could just ease onto the bum. I'm going to just move the bolster out the way and take a couple of releasing postures. For me, it's going to be downward dog. For you, it might be something else. And in downward dog, if you're choosing this one, I'm just lifting up the right leg and just gently shaking it. And then come back down to kneeling. Sit back on the heels and let's take a child's pose. We start to prepare ourselves to go to the other side. So come back up onto your hands and we'll take the other side. So come back to seated in front of your prop. And this time we'll take the right foot behind to tuck in next to the hip. Being aware of the differences in this side, particularly on your knee. And then just easing back into your support or onto the floor. Get yourself comfortable and then take the arms out to the side. So we're trying to keep the extended leg fairly active. So not completely flopped out to the side. Releasing into the position. let's finish off here with 3 more breaths. And again to come up, either propping up onto the elbows and the hands all rolling off to the left-hand side. And from here we're coming to our long lunge. So the left foot will be forwards, the right knee will be back, and have the foot of the ankle underneath the knee. On the left-hand side, the left hand comes inside the foot. And we're propped up, lifting the head slightly and the chest. We're approaching the last 30 seconds now. And then just easing back gently to maneuver into our pigeon with the left foot forwards. Move the left foot over to the right hand side of the mat and place the knee down so that the shin starts off horizontally in front of you, and it will slide under a bit. So it will square the hips up so that you don't have one much further back than the other. Lengthen the back leg away, lift up the chest, and then we just come down onto elbows and perhaps down onto the forearms. Last 3 breaths. And then coming back up the way you came down. Again, easing out however suits you. And I'm just going to go into downward dog again on this side and lift up the left leg nice and high so I can just gently ease up the joint and perhaps just shake the foot and the leg a little bit before I come back down into a child. After this breath, come back up to seated. And we'll be in a wide-legged position. Have the legs really wide apart and then just lift out the buttocks so that you're sitting on the hip bones. From this position, inhale to sweep the arms up and exhale to turn to the right hand side, taking hold of the thigh, the outer edge of the thigh with the left hand. The right hand props you up behind and just turn to look over the right shoulder. Now notice where your left hip wants to turn in a little bit. Just encourage it back onto the floor, so that might lessen the twist a little bit, but just keeps the hips nice and square. Last 30 seconds. And then just turn back to the front of your mat. And we'll go straight to the other side. So inhale to lift up the arms. And exhale to turn to the left hand side. Taking hold at the outer edge of the thigh. And use the left hand to prop you up. And again, just roll that right hip back. So that you have a nice upright spine looking over the left shoulder. And again, find a point to fix your gaze. The feet stay active and upright. Just last couple of breaths. Coming back to the center. We're staying in the wide leg pose for our final position. So if you want to ease out before we come to that position again, you're very welcome to. And our final position is what I'm going to use the ball for. And it can be really nice to use the seat of a chair as well. So it's a wide-legged seated forward fold. There are loads of options for support here. So take the legs wide. Again, lift up the buttocks. And it can be really useful to sit on a cushion so that you're just tilting forwards a little more if you feel that you're slumping backwards. If the hamstrings feel tight, you could put some blankets underneath there. And then the final thing is to rest the head. So if you're fortunate enough to be able to rest it on the floor, then you're very welcome. But I will never be there, so I am here on this ball. And then just resting the hands on the floor. So you'll know when you're in your right position because you'll feel slightly challenged, but still able to be steady and comfortable. Take a few moments to adjust. Make sure the head is comfortable if you're on a seat, to maybe put a blanket under it. And again, attempting to keep the feet fairly active. The important thing here is the meridian lines on the inside of the leg. And if after sitting in this position now for a minute and a half, you feel that it's eased off a little and you could go further forward, you could always venture a fraction further forward. Just the last couple of breaths now. And gently lifting off your support. Bring the legs in with the hands. And we're going to come down to Shavasana, so make sure that you are nice and warm and comfortable. It can be really nice to support underneath the legs, underneath the knees, as it helps the lower back to relax. And just take the hands onto the belly. As we're lying here, let's practice pranayama exercise of solar plexus charging. So just imagining that you have the sun at the crown of your head, the warmth and light radiating into the body. And with your breath, imagine that you could draw the light down through the crown of the head, all the way into the tummy. Allowing the light to pool in the tummy, as if charging your batteries. So breathe like this for the next few moments. Let's take nice full breaths to charge the solar plexus. Visualizing the light traveling down the spine and resting in the tummy. And you can let go of that practice of solar plexus charging, knowing that your batteries are fully energized. And you could leave the hands there, or you could rest them on the floor. And we'll rest here in Shavasana. Start to bring the awareness back into the body. Just running the tongue around the inside of the mouth. Taking a deeper breath. Feel the whole of the body resting on the floor. And just touch the tip of the fingers to each thumb. Wiggling the toes and stretching to wake up. Find yourself just resting on one side of the body, using the arm as a pillow. And just blinking the eyes open. Let's come back up to seated. And take the hands together at the heart. And then just open the arms up wide for prana mudra. Gather the hands at the crown of the head, at the third eye space, at the throat, and at the heart. Namaste.